From heart-wrenching murders to gory and graphic injuries. Here are the times when The Walking Dead was too gruesome. Starting off is the scene where many of us were unsettled for a long time. And that's Enid's dinner. From Season 5 to Season 10, Enid was an absolute fan favorite on The Walking Dead. She had sweet love stories with both Carl Grimes and later Alden. But in one of her first episodes, she did something that wasn't so nice. Well, that's kind of an understatement, to be honest. To be more precise, in Season 2's JSS episode, the young, lone survivor ate a turtle and then used its bones to spell out her catchphrase, "Just survive somehow." This scene was scary for sure, but it disturbed us all to the point where we kept thinking about it even after the episode had ended.
I'm feeling great when I go in the morning, but at the end of the day, I am just pooped, and then I take the biggest nap of my life.
If you couldn't handle the contents of this scene though, you probably had to cover your eyes in yet another scene, where not one but two very graphic things happened. Yep, in the episode No Way Out, we saw both Jesse's death and Carl's eye injury. The mid-season premiere of Season 6 was the start of a major tragedy for Rick and his group. I think this came as an even bigger shocker to those people who hadn't read the comics. Basically, the people of Alexandria tried to sneak past a group of walkers who had gotten into the safe zone.
Place to go back to, and I don't know if this is the same for everyone else, but I was so excited about it.
But Rick's then girlfriend Jessie and her youngest son Sam were eaten by walkers, and Ron shot Carl in the eye. Yeesh, that's gotta hurt. But then there's an instance when the show made us wince for the characters that weren't even technically humans, because that scene was just that horrifying. And this is when Shiva died in the episode Some Guy. Now Shiva, King Ezekiel's pet tiger, was a fan favorite during the 2 seasons she was on the show, even though she was just CGI. So no doubt her death in the Season 8 episode was sad for both the characters and us.
We always say it's the worst part of this job, because we love each other so much, and so the world's...
But hey, it's not like she died in a normal way either. That's part of why her death made it so gruesome in our eyes. Shiva was mauled and eaten alive by a group of walkers during a heartbreaking scene. She was trying to protect her owner, Ezekiel, and his friends, Jerry and Carol, from a group of walkers when this happened. No one could have prepared for this scene, honestly. But the question is, would you actually stop watching if an episode gave you some sort of warning?
Friend of Morgan, we shall consider her a friend of the realm until proven otherwise.
Well, they tried to do this in the episode where Abraham's died. Yep, before the start of the episode, they actually gave a content warning. I don't know about you, but if there's a content warning on a show that's literally known for showing gory things, you know things are going to be bad. Still, all of the things that ended up happening were even more graphic and bloody than we imagined. And it started with Abraham's death. Abraham was the first person Negan hurt. He used his barbed wire baseball bat Lucille to hit Abraham in the head. But if the beating wasn't bad enough, the scene where Abraham's friends sat next to his headless body in a pool of blood really made people want to cover their eyes.
I need you to know me. You still there?
Then there are some scenes where the actual death happens really abruptly, but it still leaves you feeling deeply disturbed in the end. Like when Carl was shot in the What Lies Ahead episode.
It pleases me to see you up and about, Carol. I am King Ezekiel.
In the Season 2 premiere, the 10-year-old Carl travels through the woods with his dad and Shane, but when they come across a deer, things go very wrong. Carl looks at the deer while Rick and Shane watch from behind. And the episode ends with a beautiful, jaw-dropping moment. That is, a gunshot goes right through the deer and into Carl.
Because I never thought that it would happen, because my character's still alive in the comics and he plays a pretty big role throughout the comics.
And imagine this happened right in front of his dad. A dad who would do anything for his kid. Like literally biting the person who could be a threat to his son's life. For more context, I'm talking about that scene where Rick bit Joe. As a horror show, The Walking Dead definitely needs to have a fair number of scary moments to keep everyone's attention.
Transforms into Negan in a day. We're like jumping from like makeup to hair to wardrobe and suddenly.
And for sure, the carnage and terror in the latter seasons were much more real than they were at first. But our minds were completely changed by a scene in the last episode of the 4th season.
This episode last year and the first one this year was hard for not only them, but me too. I kid and say, what?
Where a desperate Rick Grimes did something very disgusting. Rick realized that a bad guy could potentially attack his son, so he went crazy and bit and chewed a chunk of this guy's neck.
To be so brutal, I realized we're gonna need a bigger beard. So I just screw it.
While he does this, he also literally rips out his jugular vein. All of a sudden, savagery was on full display for everyone to see in a brutal fight that is still hard to watch today. Another scene that was pretty hard to watch was one that we were all pretty conflicted about.
It's become a very close friend, yeah. I mean, I don't, it's...
AKA Lizzie's murder clip. Even though we have always known that no character is safe in this zombie-infested wasteland, there have been some death scenes that have been harder to watch than others. Obviously, this is especially true when it comes to killing children or other people. But when Lizzie killed her sister Mika in Season 4, Carol had to take matters into her own hands and kill the child to keep others safe.
Hurry! She'll come back. I didn't hurt her brain.
This scene was also a pretty emotional one, not gonna lie. But in the end, Lizzie was a threat to everyone around her and could not be trusted in this tragic end-of-the-world scenario. So you can't really blame Carol for doing what she does eventually. At least there was a moral dilemma involved here though.
Gruesome. To tell you the truth, the gore of it is...
I can't say the same for Herschel though, because his death was literally just a slaughter. Herschel was not only the beloved father of Maggie and Beth, but he was also a father figure to Rick and his group for 3 seasons before his brutal death in the Season 4 episode After. The bad guy in the early seasons, the governor, did a lot of bad things. But by far the worst thing he did was put Michonne's katana to Herschel's throat and threaten to kill him.
The moment I get a razor, I may consider shaving it off, but maybe.
He then cut off Herschel's head, dropped it on the grass, and watched it come back to life as a walker. One-on-one beheadings like these are always shocking, but there's something that goes even higher on the scale of gore, and that's a bloody battle. Remember when Rick and the others seriously underestimated how powerful the Saviors were before they met Negan? They went to a satellite outpost, which turned out to be one of several, and began stabbing the Saviors while they were sleeping. Some of the Alexandrians, like Glenn and Heath, were hesitant to kill them. That was until they saw a wall of prized photos of caved-in skulls, which made them realize that the Saviors were even wilder than they expected.
We haven't finished post on it, but I know that just from the crazy thing to say.
Then the Saviors got up, and a bloody battle broke out in the compound. In the end, we have the most graphic scene saved for last. This came in the episode where Glenn dies. The Walking Dead's Season 7 premiere may be the most graphic and violent hour of television ever made. It was a payoff to the trick in the Season 6 finale, when all the main characters were lined up and one of them was beaten to death in a point-of-view shot.
Nature of this season that it was going to be so brutal, I realized we're going to need a bigger beard. So I just grew.
The big payoff was that we would finally get to see whose head Negan crushed with his baseball bat. The level of violence in this episode is so shocking and sadistic that it turned off millions of people from watching the show forever. At the same time, it was decided that Glenn's head being smashed in and his eye popping out were both completely unnecessary. That's it for the times when The Walking Dead was too gruesome for us to handle. See you in the next one.